I was 11 years old when my mother packed her suitcase and taught me my first real lesson about silence. Not the quiet kind that comes with bedtime or snowfall, but the heavy, echoing silence that fills a house when someone leaves and takes safety with them. Our apartment was on the third floor of a red brick building in Columbus, Ohio. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, thin walls, and a kitchen window that faced a parking lot full of oil stains and broken promises. It wasn't much, but it was home. At least it was supposed to be. My name is Emily Carter, and until that summer, I believed my mother loved me. She woke me up early that morning, earlier than usual. The sun was barely up, and the light coming through my curtains looked pale and unsure, like it didn't want to be there either. "Em," she said, shaking my shoulder gently, "get up, sweetheart." I rubbed my eyes and sat up, my hair tangled, my throat dry. She was dressed nicely, too nicely for a Tuesday. A beige coat, her favorite boots, and lipstick she only wore when she wanted to feel important. "Where are we going?" I asked. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm going on a little trip," she said casually, like she was talking about grocery shopping. I frowned. "What about school?" She waved her hand. "It's summer break, remember?" That was true. I nodded slowly. Then she reached into her purse and placed something on my bed. A $20 bill. I stared at it, confused. "This should last you," she said. "For what?" I asked. "For food. Stuff." My stomach tightened. "How long are you going?" She hesitated, just a second too long. "A month." The word hit me like cold water. "A month?" I repeated. "I can't stay alone for a month." "You're very mature for your age," she replied quickly. "You know how to use the microwave. There's cereal in the cabinet." I looked around my room, suddenly aware of how small it was, how small I was. "What about Grandma?" I asked. She sighed, already annoyed. "She's busy. And besides, this is important for me." "For you," I repeated quietly. She kissed my forehead, grabbed her suitcase, and walked toward the door. Just like that. No emergency numbers written down, no neighbors informed, no instructions beyond lock the door at night. Before she left, she turned around and said something I will never forget. "Don't tell anyone I'm gone." The door closed, and my childhood went with it. The first day, I didn't panic. I made myself a bowl of cereal and watched cartoons, pretending this was some kind of test. Like if I stayed calm enough, she'd come back early and tell me she was proud of me. But by the third day, the milk had gone sour. By the fifth, the $20 was almost gone. And by the end of the first week, I realized something terrifying. No one was coming. I learned quickly how loud silence can be. At night, every sound felt like danger. Pipes rattling, footsteps in the hallway, the neighbor's TV blasting through the wall. I slept with the lights on and a chair pushed against the door, even though I knew it wouldn't stop anyone. I ate dry ramen, uncooked, because I was afraid of the stove. I brushed my teeth with my finger when toothpaste ran out. I wore the same clothes for days. And still, I didn't tell anyone, because my mother told me not to. On the 10th day, my stomach hurt so badly I couldn't stand up straight. I sat on the kitchen floor, hugging my knees, trying not to cry, because crying made me feel weak, and weakness felt dangerous. That's when I heard a knock. Not loud, not aggressive, just 3 firm taps. I froze. No one ever knocked on our door. I held my breath, hoping whoever it was would go away. They knocked again. "Hello?" a woman's voice called. "Apartment 3C?" I didn't answer. "Emily?" she said. My heart started pounding. How did she know my name? "Emily, I'm your neighbor, Mrs. Thompson. I just wanted to check on you." I stayed silent. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. "I haven't seen your mom in a while." My throat closed. The door handle rattled slightly as she tested it. Locked. "I can hear you breathing," she said softly. "You don't have to be scared." I wanted to open the door. I wanted to run into her arms, but my mother's voice echoed in my head. "Don't tell anyone I'm gone." So I stayed quiet. Mrs. Thompson sighed. "All right, sweetheart. I'll check back later." Her footsteps faded. I slid down against the door and cried until my chest hurt. The next morning, there were police officers in the hallway. I knew because I heard their radios crackling. My body went numb. There was a louder knock this time. "Police department," a man's voice announced. "Emily Carter, are you inside?" I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I didn't exist. Then another voice, female, calmer. "Emily, we're not in trouble. We just want to make sure you're safe." Safe. The word felt foreign. The lock turned. I had forgotten to re-lock it after Mrs. Thompson left the night before. The door opened. 2 officers stood there, their expressions shifting from professional to shocked when they saw me. Small, thin, barefoot. The apartment smelled like stale food and fear. "Oh my God," the woman officer whispered. That was the moment I realized something terrible. This wasn't normal, and whatever my mother had done, it wasn't okay. The police didn't put handcuffs on me. That surprised me. I had always thought police meant trouble, jail, yelling, bad people. But instead, the woman officer knelt in front of me and spoke softly, like she was afraid her voice might break me. "Emily," she said gently, "how long have you been alone?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. My voice had been quiet for so long it felt like it had forgotten how to exist. The male officer looked around the apartment. His jaw tightened as his eyes moved from the empty fridge to the sink full of unwashed dishes, then to the calendar on the wall. The date was circled in red, June 3rd. Today was June 17th. 14 days. 14 days of being invisible. "Sweetheart," the woman officer said again, "is your mom coming back today?" I shook my head. Tears blurred my vision, but I forced the words out. "She said a month." The room went silent. The male officer stepped outside and spoke into his radio. The word he used made my stomach drop. "Requesting CPS." I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it wasn't good. They took me to the hospital first, not because I was bleeding, but because I was starving. A nurse wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and asked questions while pretending not to notice how my hands shook when I held a cup of apple juice. "When was the last time you ate?" she asked. I shrugged. She didn't push. That's something I noticed early on. Adults in the system rarely push. They observe. They write things down. They make decisions quietly, without ever asking how those decisions feel to a child. A social worker arrived while I was still in the exam room. Her name was Karen Mills. She wore a clipboard like armor and smiled the way people do when they're trained to be kind but don't quite feel it. "Emily," she said, pulling up a chair, "I'm here to help you." I nodded. Everyone said that. "Can you tell me where your mother is right now?" "Europe," I said. Karen raised an eyebrow slightly. "Do you know which country?" I shook my head again. Karen wrote something down. "Did she leave you with enough food?" I hesitated, because the truth felt dangerous. No, I whispered. Karen's pen stopped moving. Did she leave you with an adult? No. Did she leave emergency contact information? No. Each answer made the room heavier. When she finally looked up, her voice had changed. Less friendly, more serious. Emily, do you understand that what your mother did is called child abandonment? I stared at her. Abandonment sounded like trash, like something you throw away. She said she'd come back, I murmured. Karen sighed softly. Sometimes adults make very bad choices. That night, I didn't go home. They placed me in temporary foster care. A white minivan picked me up from the hospital. I sat in the back seat holding a plastic bag with my clothes, my toothbrush, and the $20 bill I never spent. The foster home was clean, quiet, too quiet. The foster mother, Linda, showed me a bedroom with floral sheets and a nightlight shaped like a moon. "You're safe here," she said. Safe. That word again. I nodded politely, then sat on the bed and stared at the wall until she left. I didn't cry. I felt hollow. The next day, CPS contacted my mother. She answered immediately. That part still hurts the most. She answered for them, but not for me. Karen put the phone on speaker so I could hear. "Hello," my mother said, her voice cheerful, relaxed. There were sounds behind her, laughter, clinking glasses. "Miss Carter," Karen said calmly, "this is Child Protective Services. We have your daughter." There was a pause. Then laughter. "My daughter?" my mother said. "She's fine. I left her for a bit." "For 2 weeks," Karen replied, "alone, with no supervision, no food." "That's exaggerated," my mother snapped. "She's dramatic." I felt my chest tighten. "She had $20, my mother continued. "That's enough." Karen's expression hardened. "Miss Carter," she said firmly, "where are you currently located?" "Spain. I needed a break." "A break? From me?" Court happened quickly. Too quickly. Family courtrooms are small, cold places. The judge barely looked at me. Lawyers spoke over my head like I was furniture. The verdict was clear. My mother had violated the law. But the punishment? A parenting class, supervised visits, a warning. She didn't go to jail. She didn't lose custody permanently. She cried in court and told the judge she was overwhelmed, misunderstood, exhausted, and everyone believed her. Everyone, except me. After that, I bounced between foster homes. 6 months, 4 houses, 3 schools. My mother visited occasionally, always late, always with excuses, always blaming someone else. "You know I love you," she'd say. But love doesn't leave an 11-year-old with $20 and a locked door. Love doesn't tell a child to keep secrets. I stopped calling her Mom. In my head, she became something else. Someone who gave birth to me and then disappeared. But here's what no one tells you about kids like me. We grow up, and when we do, we remember everything. By the time I turned 13, I stopped believing adults when they said, "Everything happens for a reason." Because if that were true, no one could explain why I learned how to survive before I learned how to trust. Foster care doesn't just move your body, it moves your identity. Every new house came with new rules. Don't touch the thermostat. Don't open the fridge without asking. Don't call them mom or dad. I learned how to pack my life into a single duffel bag. I learned how to read people quickly, who was kind, who was pretending, and who was counting the days until I left. School was the worst. Teachers saw a quiet girl and assumed I was fine. Other kids saw foster care as a joke. "So where's your real mom?" they'd ask. I started sitting in the back. I stopped raising my hand. I disappeared on purpose. When I was 15, I was placed with a family that didn't hit me. That's how low the bar was. They didn't yell, they didn't drink, they didn't lock food away. But they didn't love me either. I was a responsibility, a check, a file. I overheard the foster mother once whispering on the phone, "She's easy, keeps to herself." I didn't realize it at the time, but that sentence became my armor. If I was easy, no one would abandon me again. My mother drifted in and out of my life like a ghost who only showed up when it benefited her. She'd bring gifts, cheap perfume, scarves, stories about countries she'd visited. "Europe changes you," she'd say. I never asked how. She never asked how I was. During one supervised visit, I finally asked the question that had burned inside me for years. "Why did you leave me?" She looked offended. "I needed to find myself," she said. "I was suffocating." I nodded, because I already knew the answer. I was what she needed to escape. At 17, I aged out of care emotionally, long before the system made it official. I worked 2 part-time jobs. I saved every dollar. I studied like my life depended on it. Because it did. I earned a small scholarship and moved into a dorm 2 weeks after graduating high school. No goodbye party, no family photos, just a plastic keycard and a narrow bed. That night, lying in the dark, I made a promise to myself. No one will ever abandon me again, because I will never need anyone enough to be left. Adulthood didn't heal me. It sharpened me. I built a life that looked good from the outside. A steady job, a small apartment, no drama. But inside, I was still that 11-year-old girl counting cereal boxes. I didn't date seriously. I didn't trust easily. I never let anyone see me struggle. Vulnerability felt like danger. Then, when I was 26, my phone rang. The number wasn't saved. I almost ignored it. Almost. "Emily," a familiar voice said. "It's Mom." My stomach dropped. She was crying. Real crying, not the courtroom kind. "I need help," she whispered. "Please." The roles had reversed. The woman who left me alone with $20 was now alone herself. She'd lost her job, her health was failing, the friends she traveled with were gone. "I have nowhere else to go," she said. I sat there, silent. The power in that moment was terrifying, because for the first time, I got to choose. When my mother arrived at my apartment, I didn't run to the door. I didn't hug her. I didn't even cry. I stood in the doorway, my arms crossed, watching this woman who had once packed a suitcase and left me with $20, expecting me to survive a month alone. She looked smaller now, weaker, older than I remembered. I didn't know where else to go," she said, her voice shaking. "Emily, please." I studied her, noticing every detail I had missed as a child. The faded lines around her eyes, the way her hands trembled, the clothes that were too big for her. Vulnerability didn't make her innocent. "Why now?" I asked quietly, my voice calm but heavy. "After all these years, after everything." Her eyes filled with tears. I've made mistakes, Emily. I lost everything. I don't know how to fix it. I need you." I shook my head slowly. "You need me because no one else will put up with you?" She flinched. I could see the pain in her face, but it wasn't the pain I carried. I realized then that she thought asking for help erased years of neglect. It didn't. Not for me. I took a deep breath. Do you know what it felt like being 11 years old, locked in an apartment with no food, no guidance, no one? You think an apology fixes that? She swallowed hard, trembling. I thought you'd understand one day. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her how it shaped every decision I made afterward, how it made me distrust everyone, how it made me work twice as hard to survive, how it made me build walls I thought would protect me forever. But I didn't. Instead, I said something I never imagined I could. I survived without you, and now I decide how this ends. The words felt like fire in my chest, power I had never allowed myself before. She stepped closer. Please, Emily, I'm sorry. Let me stay. Let me make it right. I held up my hand. You want to fix things? You want redemption? Then you need to earn it. Not by guilt, not by tears, not by begging. Earn it by proving that you can respect boundaries, that you can respect me. She nodded, slowly. There were no more excuses, no more pretending. That moment marked a turning point, not for her, but for me. For the first time in 15 years, I realized something crucial. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you, and only you decide the terms. The following weeks were deliberate. Every interaction was structured. She attended therapy, alone at first, then together with me. She learned that apologies are not magic. She learned that a broken trust can be mended slowly, or not at all. I decided if and when she could earn my presence in my life. It wasn't easy. Some days I still screamed inside at the memory of that summer. Other days, I felt the weight lift slightly, like the first rain after a drought. I realized that confronting her wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming control, rewriting the narrative that had haunted me since 11. By the time she left my apartment after her first supervised visit, she looked smaller, yes, but also humbled. And I felt stronger than I ever had in my life. The anger, the betrayal, the fear, they were still there, but now they were tools, not chains. I had survived her abandonment, and now I survived her return. That summer, I finally understood the lesson I had learned too late as a child. Life doesn't protect you. People won't always show up. Your power lies in how you respond. And in that moment, I realized I could choose compassion, but only on my terms. The following months were quiet, almost painfully so. My mother continued therapy, continued showing up on the schedule I set for her. She tried to make amends, but I reminded myself constantly, this was not about her redemption. It was about mine. I had spent 15 years surviving her absence, rebuilding myself piece by piece. No apology could erase the nights I cried alone on the cold kitchen floor. No promise could return my stolen childhood. But I could choose how I let it affect the woman I had become. I focused on myself. I finished college, secured a stable job, and moved into an apartment that was entirely mine. A space that felt safe, a space that was mine to control. I learned that security isn't about other people showing up. It's about building your own foundation. I began to trust myself again. I built friendships slowly, cautiously, like a gardener planting seeds in winter. Some didn't take, some grew beautifully, but I learned that boundaries were my lifeline. They weren't walls, they were the scaffolding of a life I could finally call my own. One evening, my mother called. Her voice was tired but soft. "Emily, I just wanted to tell you I'm proud of you," she said. I paused. The words could have been hollow. They could have been manipulative. But I heard something else. Regret. Awareness. Humility. "I am proud of myself, too," I replied. "I survived, and I'm still here." She was quiet. Then, "Can we maybe start over, slowly?" I thought about that. Really thought about it. "Maybe," I said, "but on my terms." That conversation marked the end of my childhood trauma controlling me. It was not perfect. It was not magical. It did not erase the past. But it gave me control, a sense of power I had never had as a child. I began volunteering with organizations that support children in foster care. I shared my story publicly, writing articles, speaking at events, even making a few calm drama-style YouTube videos, because I wanted other children to know you are not alone, and your survival matters. I met adults who had been abandoned, just like me. We shared tears, shared laughter, shared strategies for reclaiming a life that once seemed stolen. And slowly, the girl who counted cereal boxes alone at 11 became a woman who could face anyone, even her mother, without fear. The moral I live by now is simple. Life will not always protect you. People will not always show up, but your power lies in your choices. I chose boundaries over fear, resilience over despair, and compassion over revenge. I am Emily Carter, survivor, advocate, and storyteller. I am proof that even when abandonment scars you, you can reclaim your life on your terms. And now, if anyone asks where I learned to be strong, I tell them, from the silence of my childhood, from the cold apartment, from $20 and 2 weeks alone, I learned to survive. And from survival, I learned to thrive. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. It helps these real stories reach more people. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful, real-life inspired stories like this. And comment below, do you believe forgiveness should have limits, or should family always be forgiven? I'd love to read your thoughts.